Hey, this story, facial recognition, people probably don't know this story. Class action was filed by a friend of ours.
Yeah, Geller.
Geller is Paul Geller is actually a friend of ours that we're working on the national opioid case with, a very good lawyer. He filed a case that said that, as class action case, where he said that Facebook is trying to gather information with facial data recognition and harvesting. What's your take on this case?
Well, first of all, I know the idea. These are a line of cases that are coming from all over the country, and the Facebook case about taking your facial recognition and using it and storing it. There's actually some acts around the country that prohibit that from a privacy perspective, that you can't take those biometric measurements off of somebody's face and use them. But here's what I think is interesting: the way these cases are losing, and it's not just this kind of case. It's also these the data breach cases. Is the argument from the defense is that there's no harm. That part of the Article 3 standing to bring a case is you have to demonstrate actual harm.
Yeah,
okay?
actual harm.
But where I get a little uncomfortable with this is, if somebody steals your data, your information, your driver's license number, your social security, and you can't show that it's actually been used to cause you any financial harm, or in this case, so they stole a picture of your biometric, Facebook did, you can't show any harm. So a lot of courts are kicking these cases out around the country, and the case law is developing. But I'll tell you what, if you've gotten your information stolen, and then somebody tells you don't have any harm, I don't think you might.
Well, okay, look, let's say that somebody was a celebrity, okay? I've taken that celebrity's facial information. I'm going to use it somewhere. There's a dollar value on that. I mean, that's clear. That's a little more clear.
I think that's
clear.
But
the argument has always been that, we did this. And it's almost, the ugly thing is, we did this, and unfortunately we got caught doing this thing. That's basically their defense. We did it. We got caught doing it. I wish we hadn't gotten caught. But you know what, Judge? Even though we got caught, there's a violation, but there's no damage to the violation. And really what the violation comes down to is notice to that person and consent by that person to say, you can take images of my face, you can store the data, you can do whatever you want to with it.
This is the second time Facebook's popped up in the last few weeks.
Spokane,
absolutely.
The Virginia case.
They got the Virginia case, which is that the case about Robbins? No, that's Ninth Circuit.
No, the Virginia.
The Virginia man that was that he couldn't sue an online search engine for posting inaccurate information until he suffered actual harm.
The term is actual harm is how they try to describe it. There's no actual harm. But what the Ninth Circuit said different.
Ninth Circuit said different, which of course that's California, a little bit more liberal. That has a little more liberal standard that says, economic status could cause concrete harm that could affect your ability to get a job, unlike more innocuous information about a wrong zip code. But I mean, you can get there's a lot of circuits around the country that says you can get your personal information stolen, but as long as you can't demonstrate that somebody actually used it to get a credit card or charge against you, you don't have actual harm or concrete harm. So the definition of concrete harm is what the turnkey is here, and that standard needs to be broadened, because otherwise there's no. Hey, look, we don't have to really pay to keep your information safe, because there's no ramifications for hackers.
Yeah, let me point something out. State legislators can do something about this. For example, Illinois.
Right.
In Illinois, there's a very clear statute. Yes. It's an enacted statute because they went ahead and looked at this whole cyber problem, and they said, we have a statute that if Facebook does these things and they don't get consent and they don't get notice, the person doesn't get notice and consent, that there's a statutory kind of recovery. Every state could do that, and as a matter of fact, depending on what Paul Geller, our friend, does out in California, they may have to end up doing that. Don't you think that sometimes a big lawsuit like that changes the way?
Drive the change, absolutely. And now there's enough mass of these cases from around the country that should push it. I mean, one of the issues in the Illinois statute was even your facial geometry, so facial recognition that they're using. Have you used that Clear thing in the airport?
Yeah.
Where you put your fingers on it? It's incredible what kind of information pops up on those things. It's a little scary, but the standard needs to be broadened up to protect us at the end of the day.